Well, it used to be paradise and just a short boat ride from the Gold Coast. But residents of this South Stradbroke Island resort say they've been abandoned.
And if you look around now, it's like a ghost town.
We're being treated like second-class citizens and like trailer park trash.
Do you realise how upset these people are to not?
It's disgusting. Like, I'm in disbelief about how we're being treated, really.
Give us our gas! Stop the harass!
Couran Cove Resort opened in 1998 on South Stradbroke Island, just a short boat ride from the Gold Coast. It was a dream of former Mayor and Olympian Ron Clark to create an eco-paradise, funded with $150 million from American billionaire Chuck Feeney and attracting world-class athletes to prepare for the Sydney Olympics. After going into administration in 2011, it's passed through a series of owners, and some of the once pristine facilities have fallen into a shocking state of disrepair. Treadmills in the gym have been smashed up, the beach boardwalk is busted, and parts of the kids' playground are a no-go zone.
I feel like it's like you're walking through Jurassic Park. Maintenance of facilities isn't taken care of. It's really sad.
Sarah Skipworth knew that parts of the resort were run down, but she never expected to be left living with no gas or hot water for the past month.
To live without the basic services, I feel like it's violating our human rights.
She purchased this eco cabin at Couran Cove 6 months ago for just $65,000. Now everyone in the eco cabins are living without gas since a sudden email was sent a month ago warning of a potential explosion that could damage buildings or even kill.
When I received the email, I was really scared. I thought my life was at risk at the time.
She says guests and staff at the main resort had not even been warned about any danger, leaving the eco cabin residents feeling like second-class citizens.
My name is Nicole and I'm 7 years old. I live at Couran Cove, South Stradbroke Island with my family, and I'm not very happy.
Families live in these eco cabins too, like 7-year-old Nicole and her mum Patricia, who has to fill the bath upstairs with boiled water from the kettle for her and younger sister Elena.
It started a bit in winter and now it's spring. It's not fair. We haven't had gas for such a long time.
How important is it for you guys to get the gas back on here?
Well, we use the gas for both hot showers and cooking. So imagine how essential that is.
Owners of eco cabins like these pay $10,000 each year in body corporate fees, which also includes water, gas and electricity usage. They say they have regular blackouts, including when we visited the island.
Third world country, no rights at all. Absolutely disgusting.
63-year-old Judy Williams is legally blind. She tried to come up with her own solution, hooking up a small gas bottle to her main supply, but has just been busted for it by the body corporate.
He's come around here and deliberately singled me out. Lots of people have temporarily got these 9-kilo gas bottles, and he's dobbed me in for having an illegal setup here.
Government gas inspectors deemed Judy's setup a potential hazard and disconnected the bottle.
What seems to be the problem here today?
In what way?
Darren Phillip is a member of the community body corporate and was the one who dobbed in Judy's illegal gas bottle.
Do you realise how upset these people are to not have any gas at the moment?
Of course I do.
What do you think of the situation they're in?
Well, it's got to go through the process. The body corporates have got to sort it out. It's got to go through the proper process. You just can't come out here and put a gas bottle on.
At the time of our visit, residents had been told it could take another 2 months before the gas is reconnected.
They're paying, $10,000 in body corporate fees.
They know that when they come here.
What are they getting for their $10,000?
Well, you need to refer that to David Rosenbaum, who's the chairman of the CBC.
It certainly looks like there's not a lot being spent on maintenance around the place.
The community body corporate chairman declined our request for an interview, but has since announced gas to the eco cabins will start being reconnected this week. A spokesperson blamed the delay mostly on the Eco Cabin's own body corporate for failing to pay.
The Eco Body corporate are using the gas as a negotiating tactic in a wider dispute and using the media to seek to harm the community body corporate.
There are 5 body corporates involved on the island, with complex court proceedings playing out over millions of dollars in unpaid levies. These individual owners claim all of their levies are paid in full.
It's really silly that there's this war between the operator, the developer and the private owners who at the moment are propping up the resort basically through their body corporate fees.
This Eco Cabin owner, who wants to be called Nairi, says they now hope the state government can help them find a way out of this complicated mess.
My fervent hope is that we can get together with the operator and work out a way forward to revitalise the place instead of spending money on lawyers and court cases. It's just crazy.
Give us our gas! Stop the harassment!
They now hope their voices can be heard all the way to Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk's office.
And we want help to restore those services in this beautiful paradise.
Give us our gas! Stop the harassment!
Boy, that's a lot of body corporates. And the community body corporate says the state government requested the affected gas line be decommissioned prior to any new lines being reconnected.
It used to be an idyllic island paradise, but tonight residents at Couran Cove on South Stradbroke Island are without power and running water. It's the result of a body corporate dispute that's left people with what they've described as inhumane living conditions.
Tensions spark as electricity is cut off.
You think you are? You can't touch me.
Escorted by 2 security guards, an electrician turns off the power at Couran Cove. Police protected island staff as frustrated residents asked why.
So nobody wants to tell us.
Water was also cut off.
Inhuman and insane in 2023 that this can happen.
The essential amenities were stopped by the service provider over claims $20 million in fees paid by residents hadn't been passed on.
I've got nothing to live for if I haven't got this little bit of peace, because this is where, I'm happiest.
They haven't been told if or when the services will be restored. Joy Winks can't wait. She's packed her bags and will go. Despite the uncertain future these residents now face, many say they won't be leaving the island. Margaret and Bernie Woods have lived there for 11 years. They're prepared to wait it out.
I've got my own water system set up with 20,000 litres of water, rainwater and generators.
We're retired, we just want to live in peace.
The service provider says they can no longer afford to carry these costs. The body corporate was contacted for comment as residents are left in the dark. Georgia Costi, 7 News.
Residents of Couran Cove on South Stradbroke Island are preparing to spend the night in darkness. Their power cut off today, along with other utilities, indefinitely after tensions boiled over due to a dispute over unpaid fees.
At breaking point, residents of South Stradbroke Island not going down without a fight.
I'm not trespassing. Why am I trespassing? You protect your property. Just drive me crazy, the lot of you.
Police standing in as backup, flanked by security guards, staff from Couran Cove Resort cutting off utilities to some of the homes indefinitely.
They're here cutting our water off and it's just ridiculous. Like, we pay all our body corporate fees and everything and they think they own everything.
It's stressful. Yeah, in my old age, I thought I was going to have nice peace and quiet.
89-year-old Jan Pitt camping out on her electricity box, braving the mosquitoes and heat to stop her lights from being turned off.
How long are you going to stay here, Jan?
I don't know. I don't know, as long as necessary, I suppose.
But her efforts were in vain. Simon Napoli, the director of the company which supplies utilities to the island, warning residents in writing their services are being suspended after a long-running dispute with the body's corporate over claims of unpaid levies.
I knew there was concerns with the island, but I didn't realise it was going to go to cutting off power and things like that.
We bought, I think, about 100 litres of water with us because we was told the water was going to get cut off as well. So you're just going to take all the precautions you can.
If residents didn't think things could get any worse, they've just found out the general store, the only place on this island to get basic supplies, has been closed and won't reopen. Vulnerable guests in the over 50s and disability accommodation relocating overnight.
None of us really have known what is going on, so we're just hanging in there.
Live now to Charlton Heart. Charlton, a lot of the residents tonight are just refusing to be chased out.
Well, many of them feel that they've just invested too much, Andrew, to simply walk away and risk losing it all. That's not just in their properties, but also in the costs in legal fees and their time. Some of them have been battling this since the beginning. So for a number of years, over the past couple of days, they've been bringing in water and generators, and that'll certainly help them get through this short term. But it's the long term that's going to be the challenge. It remains to be seen how they cope with that. They're just hoping, Andrew, that there's some sort of intervention to end this standoff.
Charlton, thank you.
Couran Cove residents have endured another night without power or water as the body corporate stoush continues. The state government says it's since sent staff over to help affected residents.
We've got community recovery and housing staff just checking on welfare, making referrals if people do need support. If people do need to leave and find alternative accommodation, we will work with them.
It's claimed more than $20 million worth of body corporate levies have not been paid.
3 weeks without power or water. Residents left on Couran Cove with nowhere else to go are digging in. They've paid their rates, but an increasingly bitter battle between the utilities company and body corporates means they're the ones suffering.
When he found Couran Cove, Dave Thompson thought he'd found the perfect investment.
It's all turned to nightmare stuff. We pay a lot of body corporate, circa $85,000 a year across the whole group.
With power and water now cut, he's losing $2,000 a week in lost rent.
It does add up. It's out of our super fund. You know, it's part of our retirement.
The company that provides the utilities says it pulled the plug on the critical services, claiming the money unit owners are paying to body corporates isn't being passed on.
It costs around $80,000 to $90,000 a week to run the island.
So where has the money gone? The precinct body corporate tells 7 News it's been poured into legal fees for their defence against the service provider.
It's as simple as them collecting the money from the mum and dad owners and passing that money on. That can deal with the provision of the services in the short term, but then there's the issue of the historical debts as well.
Debts that the provider says add up to $20 million. Steve Titmus, 7 News.
Well, things are going from bad to worse, I'm afraid, for residents on an island off southeast Queensland who are facing a service blackout. It's all over accusation of unpaid body corporate fees.
Now, one resident at Couran Cove Island Resort says she has been banned from stepping foot on the premises, with the resort accusing her of being a public nuisance.
So Rhonda and her fellow island resident Sharon join us now live. Ladies, thanks so much for joining us. Rhonda, first to you, this situation, it seems it's been blowing up for some time now, for months. Your services, they're about to be cut off and it's all over these accusations of unpaid fees. What on earth is going on where you are?
Well, in actual fact, the area that I'm in Eco, we've had our services cut for the last 7, almost 8 weeks. So the other 2 body corporates have had notices to say that theirs will be cut on the 18th. So at the moment, we're living off the grid.
So when you say services cut, you're talking about water, electricity, the lot?
Gas. Yep. I'm using a bucket to flush my toilet from the water that we get delivered from the Red Cross. We're using candles and solar lamps for lighting, and I have a little gas cooker to use for cooking facilities. So we're pretty much in the dark, literally out there.
So for those of us who aren't familiar with this situation on South Stradbroke Island, who has cut you off and why?
Why, yeah.
I believe that the resort owner and through the service provider, there are outstanding body corporate levies that haven't been paid. Up to 98% of those have been from the two corporate entities. All of us, as they quote the little mums and dads, and the individual owners, we've paid our levies. We don't understand why we're in this crossfire about having all of our services cut.
So you've been
everybody's just at a loss.
You've been served a barring notice, is what it's referred to. There it is. There. So are there any demands in this notice, or just quite simply you're cut off?
I'm being told that I've been a public nuisance. I've spoken to the media, and I'm not really sure what my barring notice means because it's written indefinite. I've had to seek legal advice. So I'll be taking that further, but I'd like my name cleared because I certainly haven't done anything to warrant being given this notice.
Sharon, let's bring you in now because you're days away from having your running water cut off. Talk us through what kind of stress this is putting on you.
Yeah, well, they cut our power off 8 weeks ago, and now they're threatening to cut off our water, our gas and our sewerage. We live with my partner's mum, Jan, who's 90. So you can imagine the stress she's under when we've got to run extension cords from our generator all the time. We worry about her tripping over because she's partially blind. So it's very stressful. It's going to be even harder when we can't use the toilet. I guess it'll be like a lot of people have been out camping. We're virtually forced to live off the grid. Even though we've paid our body corporate fees.
And what are you being told?
No consideration's being taken. We've been told at 10 o'clock on Monday the 17th, that all services will be cut off. And that's all we've been told, other than the fact that they're barring us barring us by putting gates up. We won't be able to go to the resort, to the cafe or anything. And the marina, where we all moor our boats. So we're worried we won't even be able to get our boat out to go shopping or anything.
Sharon,
so it's very stressful.
Sharon, if this is a disagreement between the resort owners and the body corporate companies, you are, quote, the little people who are caught in the middle of this. You've paid your fees. How do you feel about the way you're being treated?
It's inhumane, to put it bluntly. It's becoming a humanitarian crisis in the fact that there's over 100 people who live on the island, and unfortunately we don't have anywhere else to go.
Should the government be stepping in, do you think?
It's... Oh, definitely, definitely. We've been trying for months to get people to listen to us, and you get shoved from pillar to post between government departments. The only people who have helped us are Emergency Service Response Team and the Red Cross. They deliver us our water, fresh water bottles, so that we can at least drink water, and we've got a gas bottle so we can use our barbecue if we have to. It's really the toilet. And on top of that, that stress creates my illness being lupus. It creates even more problems.
Can I just also add, we've got some brilliant volunteers that are delivering our water. We've had the trailer that we've been using to deliver this water to everybody has been stolen by management. It's insane. To what end are we being treated so badly?
What are you going to do now?
For example, my barring notice.
What's next?
We're begging for the government to send an independent body to come and do something to help us. Get mediation. We've asked for mediation with the management of the resort, but they refuse. We just keep having to go to court and spend money unnecessarily on court orders.
But also on top of that, we're based in the Broadwater Villas, and they cut the power off 8 weeks ago, except for the villas that are owned by one of the corporates that owe most of the money. So, you know, how do we deal with that? You know, we drive around in the dark and you see all their lights on, and they're still getting tenants and holiday makers in their units, and yet other people who also use units for Airbnb can't put anyone in because they haven't got power. So you can see it's really discriminatory that the people who owe the money have power and the people that have paid the money don't have power.
Well, Rhonda, Sharon, hopefully, you know, we can help by getting some answers for you as well. Wish you all the best in dealing with what is a very unpleasant and, you know, unnecessary situation, surely.
You shouldn't have to be dealing with that. It's not fair.
State's peak body for strata organisation says an ongoing dispute amongst residents and body corporates on South Stradbroke Island is unique and unlikely to be replicated elsewhere. Essential services, including water and electricity, were cut off for some residents at Couran Cove last month due to claims of unpaid levies. General Manager of the Strata Association Queensland, Laura Boss, has told ABC reporter Dominic Cansdale Couran Cove operates under multiple conflicting schemes. But what does it mean for other Queenslanders living under strata schemes?
This is a really complex situation. So Couran Cove is part of what we call a BUGTA scheme, and they are an older style of a scheme management or community title management. And what we've got here is our multi-layered scheme. So there are a number of different community title schemes, all under one big roof, if you want to put it that way. And so what has started to happen is they are all conflicting against each other. And we've been calling for reform to the BUGTA scheme so that the body's corporates do have more power and are more empowered to look after themselves. And there was a significant suite of reforms that went through last year, which is, you know, the first time in around 25 years that we've seen reform of this nature. But it didn't quite go far enough.
What more needs to be done?
There needs to be a lot more work around empowering bodies corporate to, take more charge of their own affairs, if you like. This particular scheme, though, at Couran Cove is incredibly difficult because they have had such long-standing conflict. We've got a number of parties who are just refusing to come to the table to talk. The issues have become very personal and convoluted, and it seems to me that common sense is not prevailing anymore. And I'm terribly affronted to see that we are now in a humanitarian crisis off the shores of the Gold Coast, where we have the Red Cross now having to intervene to provide basic services to people who are living here, because we've got a conflict that is just out of control and not being solved.
What workable solutions do you see as being possible?
I do believe that because it's reached humanitarian crisis level that the government really does need to step in. It seems to me to be one of these issues where, people have forgotten what it is they were arguing for, and it's such deeply entrenched positions that, just by human nature, people lose sight of the end goal. And if the end goal is to have, a harmonious living, is to have harmonious living in a community, how they've got there is not that.
The state government, speaking previously on this issue, have said that they have met with parties, but that they're unable to independently intervene because it is still before the courts. What's your thought on that?
And I think that there are certainly mechanisms that the state government has available to them, but I do understand their concern and I do understand their reluctance, given that there are matters before the courts that need to be resolved. Ultimately, in community title, you want a situation where the bodies corporate can resolve these issues by themselves. And look, I just want to be quite frank. This is an incredibly unique situation. Strata title schemes, for the most part, do not operate like this. Strata living communities work well and they all work together. This is one of these situations where a lack of reform over many, many years and deep entrenched positions has got it to a point now where it is almost unresolvable.
You mentioned this is a unique situation, and I guess the idea of a sort of island resort-like strata scheme does seem very foreign to a lot of people, but more than 1 million Queenslanders do live in apartments and properties under strata schemes. Could this happen elsewhere?
Highly unlikely is my response to that. This particular situation with Couran Cove is quite unique, and it is unique. There are still issues around body corporate communities that do need to have some reform to them. SCA Queensland has been advocating for a change in how management rights has been used. There's been some conflict around caretaking arrangements and how that impacts on the ability of a body corporate to be able to manage their own destiny, if you like. And so we've been advocating very strongly around the change of term and around what those contracts look like, largely so bodies corporate do have more say in what those look like. There's also issues around professionalism of strata management. We've been advocating quite strongly to have the sector registered or licensed so that we can ensure that there is that professional approach to supporting communities to manage their bodies corporate.
That is the General Manager of the Strata Association of Queensland, Laura Boss, chatting to reporter Dominic Cansdale there about Couran Cove, the ongoing dispute between residents and body corporates on South Stradbroke Island after essential services, including water and electricity, were cut off for some residents last month.
There are fears Couran Cove will turn into a third world community when essential services are completely cut off next week. It's all because of illegal stoush. Now police are so concerned, extra officers are heading over.
On the ground at Couran Cove,
good old tipplers to the rescue.
A heavy-duty machine delivers dozens of water pallets destined for residents' homes. In preparation for 10 a.m. Monday, when essential services are cut off to the whole community.
It is totally like a third world country. It's unbelievable that we have this in Australia in these days, especially on the Gold Coast.
In February, water and power was cut to more than 100 homes due to a body corporate stoush over alleged unpaid fees. 2 months on, it's still ongoing.
The operator has been paying for the services and to the tune of $80,000 to $100,000 per week. And that situation is not sustainable.
The service provider says it now has no choice but to extend that, suspending services like electricity, water, even sewerage to all 360 homes.
It was a very difficult decision and we really feel for the residents. They're the innocent victims caught in the crossfire of a body corporate war.
Police now so concerned they're preparing for this.
You think you are? You can't touch me.
Tensions boiled over in February, but with the impacts set to be more widespread, officers are being sent over to keep the peace.
We have received a number of complaints of willful damage and theft.
Now, those officers will head to Couran Cove over the weekend. Police vessels will also be on standby as reinforcement if things get out of hand. They are preparing for protests with tensions running high. Officers will be trying to ease any hostility.
Time is fast running out for the residents and property owners at Couran Cove on South Stradbroke Island. Tomorrow morning, they're set to lose all services, including power and water, and it's unclear when or even if they'll get them back.
A secret meeting of residents desperate to salvage their island homes. Tomorrow, all 360 private properties in Couran Cove will have services shut off, including power, water, gas, sewerage and security.
Our water and power has been cut for 8 weeks now, or because of somebody else's debt, not ours.
Residents have brought in generators and are bottling water to survive. Father of 2, Daniel Gonzalez, says he left his home in Venezuela for a better life, now facing the same problems on the Gold Coast.
I moved thousands of kilometres away to come into this island and just find out that this is pretty much the same thing happening.
Now that it's a humanitarian crisis, where we've got water and basic human services being denied, that's where governments may have some bigger levers to pull in.
It's a tangled web that's led to a skyrocketing debt of $25 million. Strata experts say it's the result of old and complex legislation. Undeveloped land has been racking up service fees, which are now falling onto the multiple body corporates.
The reality is that the island has not been developed in the way that it was supposed to be or intended to be.
Couran Cove service provider Simon Napoli, who owns 25 apartments, denies he's responsible for part of the growing debt, saying the claims we owe money as a mortgagee is incorrect and inaccurate, and is requesting the state government immediately intervenes. Residents claim the dispute is turning nasty, with a fire hydrant's water supply being blocked. The service provider told 7 News it was to stop vandals. The feeling among residents tonight is fear and frustration, not knowing exactly what will happen when services are cut at 10 a.m. The state government says it's already provided water supplies and has offered housing assistance, financial counselling and legal aid. But any further intervention appears unlikely. A resolution to this could take years. What it means for the residents here is unclear. Katrina?
Thanks, Jackie. Hundreds of Couran Cove residents are tonight without power or water, with essential services at the resort cut late this afternoon. Tensions boiled over, but the service provider says it was left with no choice.
Patients lost in paradise.
You are a
He does not want
calling
tempers flaring at Couran Cove between residents and body corporate.
Pay your bill. Why should he? Pay your bill.
All this before power, gas and water was cut off to hundreds of dwellings. Residents like Jesse Baxter prepared for disconnection.
I've got all my bathtubs and all my places filled up. If water's off and sewerage has gone to then it's going to be much tougher than we think.
Jan Hooft cares for an elderly woman. She's been transferred to the mainland because it's now unsafe. He'll spend the night in darkness.
It's going to be dinner by candlelight, I guess.
Yeah, and shower?
Yeah, well, I guess we're going to have to go jump in the river.
Residents here who've been without essential services for weeks have been stockpiling donated fresh water. They've been told that could come to an end, though, in June. The sanctuary was switched off at 4:30 this afternoon. The marina entrance roped off. The service provider claims it's been left with no choice, owed millions in unpaid levies, which it says continue to not be passed on by the precinct body corporate. They say they're using the money to defend legal action taken against them by the service provider. Calls now mounting for the state government to appoint an independent manager to resolve the feud. Until then, residents that remain are preparing to spend their first night in the dark. And late this afternoon, 7 News was told the resort's infrastructure operator had agreed to an urgent meeting called by the state government, but it's unclear when that meeting will take place. And if it doesn't deliver a breakthrough, well, it appears for hundreds of Couran Cove residents, they'll be left in the dark without any power, water or gas.
Residents of the troubled Couran Cove Island Resort are facing mounting uncertainty tonight, with their essential services to be axed from tomorrow. Live now to Abby Guerin on the Gold Coast. Abby, good evening to you. Police are on high alert amid fears tensions will boil over.
They are. Mayor officers say they're on standby to travel to the island tomorrow should things get hostile. It is expected electricity, water and gas will be cut to all 360 dwellings at the Couran Cove resort from 10 a.m. amid allegations of unpaid body corporate fees. Some residents are planning on standing their ground with portaloos and batteries to get them through, but many have already fled to the mainland. We spoke with families returning to the Gold Coast today. They say the situation is desperate.
It's pretty empty, yeah, so there's a few people that, probably are going to leave soon. I guess it'll be, last minute. People are uncertain and they don't know what's going to happen. There's not much information.
The service provider has today again called on the Queensland Government to appoint an independent manager to resolve this feud. The state government says it is closely monitoring the situation but has stressed that this is a very complex and private dispute.
Thanks for that, Abby.
Remaining residents at Couran Cove have spent the night in darkness after power was cut on the island resort late yesterday. Essential services such as water and gas were left running, but this afternoon they too were switched off.
The lights are off, but some are still at home.
So this is cooking in the dark.
Last night on Couran Cove, gas remained on, water as well, but Mark Pitt was left fumbling in the dark.
Fell over table and chair and did my thumb in.
He's now desperate to get his generator fixed.
Everything's melting in the fridge. It's inhuman.
Not-for-profit New Beginnings is hoping for just that. The group's been locked out of its base.
Can't get into our own building and we have a 2-year lease on this. Those kids that were planned to be here at camps in the next months, where do they go?
Bruce Fenton has limited medication. He's now been forced to leave.
Oh, just diabetes and a couple of other health issues. I've got a couple of weeks, but there's other medications that I'm on that the wife brings over.
Pressure is mounting on remaining residents to leave. This afternoon, more essential services were cut, leaving residents without water and gas. The service provider says it has no choice, claiming it's owed up to $25 million in unpaid levies from body corporates.
It would be inappropriate for me as Attorney-General to intervene in court proceedings between private entities. However, like everyone, the government wants to see these issues resolved.
We've got nowhere to go. We have to stay, yeah. We can't afford to pay our body corporate fees here and rent a place on the mainland.
Leaving them at the island's mercy. Now, the service provider has told 7 News it also switched off sewage this afternoon with a letter going out to owners warning them not to flush their toilets. The service provider wouldn't say when it would restore these essential services for remaining residents, but those residents that refuse to leave the island resort say they're now bunkering down for the long haul.
Over Easter, we spoke to residents living in Queensland's Couran Cove, battling for their essential services after threats were made to cut electricity, water and gas. Well, now all services have been shut down. It is an idyllic Queensland resort from the outside, but a fierce dispute rages within. Residents informed they will be blacked out at the start of this week. No working gas, electricity or any essential services. Now a harsh reality.
It's really inhumane, the treatment they're giving us. We couldn't do any washing, we couldn't cook.
I'm not leaving because it's my sanction, it's my peace.
All of this over alleged unpaid body corporate fees, tying to an ongoing war between residents and service providers. A messy dispute involving a whopping $25 million in alleged unpaid fees from residents. As police brace for angry residents, eyes turn to the government to intervene to get the lights back on at Couran Cove. All right, well, I can't quite fathom how this has happened, and I can't quite fathom what it'd be like if you're one of those families. Rhonda is a resident, joins us now. Rhonda, good morning to you. How are you holding up?
Good morning. Well, as best we can.
What's happened since we last caught up with you?
Well, yesterday they did go ahead in the afternoon, quite late, and cut the services from the two precincts that were still running with power and water and gas. I of course have had 9 weeks now without any services where I am in Eco. So we're all feeling pretty bad for our fellow friends that are about to go through what we've already gone through.
So tell us what that's like. Tell us what that's like on a daily basis. So just give us an insight. I mean, I've been to Couran Cove many times, and it's a really special part of the world. But what's it like without all essential services?
At the moment, a very eerie feeling. It's like a bit of a ghost town. Of course, most people that have chosen to not have to suffer through this have left. But my daily routine is to take 2 buckets to collect at our water stations to use to flush my toilet, and I cook on a little gas barbecue, a little camping barbecue. I was using bags of ice, but that's quite difficult for me to purchase now to put in the esky as my fridge. So I'm looking to buy a gas bottle operated fridge. Yeah, it's pretty hard. Oh no. No, and no lights. Going through it, so I wish the Gold Coast City Council would recognise we are ratepayers too. We may be a little island across from the mainland, but we really are still a suburb of the Gold Coast, and we'd like some help.
It looks like your internet's the next to go, unfortunately. But
oh,
look,
I'm sorry.
I'm not going to treat this lightly. This is terrible. And this is, for those who don't know, it's what a 15, 20 minute boat ride from the mainland. It's not far away. And then there's just in a nutshell, give us 30 seconds on what's happened so people around Australia can understand.
Well, we have 2. It seems to be explained as being complex, but I find it quite simple. We have 4 underlying body corporates that pay their money in their levies up to the CBC, which is the overriding controlling body corporate, the community body corporate. That on pays to the service providers, and it's not being paid by 2 corporate entities. The referee has already written and explained that it's 98% their debt, not us as the little owners. And if those 2 entities would just sort it out with each other, we could all just get on with it. One owes almost $20 million, the other owes $450 odd $1,000, and those 2 bodies.
And you're stuck in the middle. And this is hardworking Australians who are stuck in the middle and are absolute victims of.
We're in the crossfire.
How are you holding up? How are you holding up? Because I mean, this should have been sorted out. I mean, either state government or Tom Tate's a good guy. I mean, he should just get on a boat and go over there and do it.
Yeah, it would be nice, wouldn't it? We can't even get our local council member to answer us. Everybody's written, we're wrong. We've been at this for months.
Yeah, I know.
It's been in court. It's still in court. We're getting help from the Attorney General as much as she can, but really at the local level, wouldn't you think that Tom and his group would be able to come and at least sort out some power and water situations for us whilst the other.
All right, we'll get on to Tom. Like I said, he's a reasonable fella.
You.
Thank you for being with us on the show, and let us know how you go.
Thanks so much for your time, okay? And thanks to all our supporters, and happy birthday, Sharon.
See you, darling. Bye, Sarah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Carl. Hey there, Today fans. Sarah and...
What's my name again?
Oh my God. Carl.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel, though. Subscribe now for more news, special reports, and amazing Aussie stories.
And Carl misbehaving, of course.
That never happens.
Always happens.
What's she talking about?
Always happens.
Over the last 2 weeks, we've been following the story of Couran Cove residents in Queensland. This is a nightmare. This is the island community cut off from essential services over an ugly body corporate pay dispute. Residents like Rhonda.
We've had our services cut for the last 7, almost 8 weeks.
Since then, more locals have come forward and shared their stories as more homes become impacted by the shutdown, taking the total number to more than 120.
a very eerie feeling. It's like a bit of a ghost town. Of course, most people that have chosen to not have to suffer through this have left.
So, yesterday we spoke with the Director of Services for the region, the man ultimately responsible for cutting the supply.
Unfortunately, we're in a situation where owners have been paying those levies, but those levies have not been passed on, and they've been diverted by the body corporates.
All right, so what is said to have occurred? At the core of the issue is $25 million in alleged unpaid fees, money used to get power and water supply. In one corner, you have the Director of Services, while in the other is the body corporate, which is made up of several entities. According to the Director of Services, instead of receiving what he claims he's owed, the money was instead used by the body corporate elsewhere, including legal battles. But the body corporate now says that is not the case.
You'd be forgiven for being a bit confused, leaving the residents who have forked out tens of thousands in body corporate charges stuck in the middle with no resolution in sight. We're joined now by Chairman of Eco Body Corporate, Ernie Johnson. Ernie, can you tell us, are body corporates diverting fees instead of paying service providers?
Good morning, Sarah. Good morning, Carl. Absolutely not. The fundamental problem that we have is that 99% of the outstanding levies are owed by two entities, Simon Napoli and, to a larger extent, a gentleman by the name of Lachlan McIntosh. Put simply, if they paid the levies that they owe not only to ECO but to the other body corporates as well, if they paid those levies, then we could pay the levies to the CBC and the CBC could pay the levies to the service provider. But the extension of the problem is that Mr McIntosh and Mr Napoli control the CBC. So we've got a bizarre situation where the service provider, Mr Napoli, can put up charges to the CBC for the provision of caretaking and services at whatever rate he wants to. And then the CBC that he controls, together with Mr McIntosh, just rubber stamp it and send it on to the body corporate. So the first point you make is that 25 million, that's a very contentious figure that we don't believe. But the fundamental problem is they owe levies. And we're in a situation there where when you pay levies, you pay them on a thing called lot entitlements. So if you own a house, you pay 5 lot entitlements. At Couran Cove, we've got 3,228, I think it is, lot entitlements, and levies are divided by all of that. Our CBC is controlled by the two entities that only pay 2% of the lot entitlements. So the rest of us are not having a voice in that.
Okay, so essentially, I mean, he said yesterday on the program you're diverting money. So you're not diverting money that is owed to him to pay for legal bills in order to resolve this dispute. Can you just...
Let me explain. Yeah, if I could explain that. Yesterday, Mr Napoli said that last year we received $1 million in levies from owners. That's not true. The accounting systems that the body corporates use is based on an accrual system, which fundamentally means that when they raise the invoices for $1 million, but because Mr Napoli and Mr McIntosh don't pay their levies, we're only receiving $600,000, in fact $639,000 a year. Now we have to pay insurances, we've got to pay for the maintenance of the common property, we have to pay the body corporate managers, we've got to pay all sorts of things. And we are supposed to pay levies for the water and all the rest of it. If Mr McIntosh and Mr Napoli paid their levies, that would be $400,000 for a start that would go over there. And yes, we do have a substantial legal fee of about, last year I think it was maybe $200,000, I stand to be corrected on that, that we had to pay on legal fees. But if we don't pay our legal fees, we're in a bigger mess, because a funny situation is that, not funny, it's serious, is that we're confronted with a problem where the CBC are suing ECO for the non-payment of levies to the CBC, which effectively means that we have to pay our own legal fees and the body corporate's legal fees to sue us.
Ernie, my head is hurting, and I don't even live there. But at the end of the day, this needs to be sorted. How is it going to get sorted? Who's going to get involved really quickly?
Well, the government are looking into it. We've been trying for 2 years to get Mr Napoli to the table. We've got a plan that we believe can sort the problem. As late as 2 weeks ago, I tried to talk to him and he just refuses to talk to me. But we do have a plan that can resolve this problem, but he has to come to the table.
Let us get in contact with him. He was on the show yesterday, and let's try and get you in a room. We'll take our cameras along so that no hell breaks loose, even though it might. Now, good on you, Ernie. I really feel genuinely for the residents over there.
Yeah, the owners are the real problem in here. We've got a lot of older people, and
we're on your side.
We haven't even got toilets now.
Yeah,
serious problem.
It's terrible. Good on you, Ernie. Thank you.
Thanks, Ernie.
Brookie.
Couran Cove residents say it's like living in a third world country, and it's about to get worse as more essential services are cut. Bianca Stone residents still say they're not leaving.
Steve, good evening. There are around 45 very determined residents here, and they say they are not going anywhere. It was in April when the gas and power was cut, and now the resort owner and service provider says he's got no other choice but to cut other essential services. That includes the water treatment plant and also the sewerage system. Now, I've just had a message from a resident saying that has now just been cut. That is just going to make these living conditions here even more basic. Residents, though, really have banded together. They do water runs and fuel runs to power generators as well. Now, the issue is over a complex body corporate dispute. The owner claims he's owed $25 million, but most residents say they've paid their fees. It's the former owner who owes the money.
I'm committed to staying here. Yes, I've invested in here. The government needs to step in. If this was happening on the mainland, they wouldn't get away with it.
We're pretty much in darkness here. All resort facilities have closed down. It is like a ghost town, and we will hear from the resort owner in the news at 6.
Couran Cove residents are remaining defiant, vowing to stay put on their island paradise. There's been no power or gas for weeks, and just an hour ago, the water treatment plant and sewage system were shut off.
When water is precious, you keep it under lock and key. Mick delivers bottles to those who have chosen to stay.
I've been through a really difficult time in my life in the past with domestic violence, and there is no way I am going to be tossed, have something taken away from me again.
There are around 45 residents left. Living conditions are basic.
I had a shower the other night because I boiled the water in the pot and, tossed the bucket over my head.
There's no power or gas. It was cut in April. They survive using solar and generators. And now the water treatment plant and sewage are being shut down too. But they're not budging.
If I have to use a tree, I'll use a tree.
It's separated families.
Karen unfortunately can't remain on the island, so I'm here Monday to Friday and I visit her on the weekends.
And crippled a children's charity.
Yeah, we had a camp for vulnerable children planned for mid-May, and of course we had to cancel it.
One of the biggest concerns for the residents here is the threat of fire. None of the fire hydrants in this section of the island are working.
They've had fires on North Stradbroke before, and they've learnt that they can't stop it, so it's a real threat.
The owner and service provider says he has no choice. He claims he's owed $25 million by the body's corporate.
It's a really difficult decision, and there's a lot of innocent people affected here.
And that's what's frustrated residents. They claim the dispute is a result of a soured business deal between the current and former owner.
The government needs to step in. If this was happening on the mainland, they wouldn't get away with it.
Pleading for help before paradise is lost. Bianca Stone, 7 News.
Couran Cove
Cove residents are on high alert tonight, fearing fire could decimate their beleaguered resort. If one does spark, there's no water to put it out, as locals hope a nasty body corporate stash is finally nearing the end.
Cut off and feeling forgotten.
If this was going on the mainland, it would have lasted a week.
This is Couran Cove, the South Stradbroke Island community still stripped of utilities. Power, gas and water were shut off in February, the sewerage system cut in June. The result of a complex body corporate clash. These residents are the collateral damage.
It's mentally destroying.
Those who haven't left are living off the grid, reliant on water tanks, generators and solar panels.
There's a lot of old people here. They don't want to live their lives out like this.
Around the resort, facilities are falling apart. The pool's green and boardwalks are broken. Ben Breuer relocated his charity to the island in November. Instead of helping troubled teens, he's battling climbing costs.
We can't bring volunteers over. We certainly couldn't run youth camps. And along the way, we've also had 2 break-ins to our admin office.
Representatives from a number of the resort's body corporates are hopeful utilities will be restored by Christmas, with warmer weather approaching and the threat of bushfires growing.
If we have a fire here, you know, this place will go.
We need water. And water under pressure.
Severed services which could return soon.
It just depends on the legal cases and stuff, but we're quietly hopeful that we'll get the right result.
To take a step towards restoring a once relaxing resort. Liam Bland, 7 Gold Coast News.
And Liam Bland, South Stradbroke Island isn't the only area of concern for fire crews.
Steve, a new report from the Weather Bureau was released today on the fire risk across all of Queensland. On Monday, the threat level in the southeast corner, including the Gold Coast, will be elevated as temperatures climb into the low 30s and the northerly winds strengthen. We've had 3 years of above average rainfall in Queensland, which has enabled significant areas of grassland to flourish, but it's been drier than average since March and the risk of wildfire is on the rise.
The wet isn't likely to come in again until perhaps well into January, and so we're going to be in these prolonged dry conditions now through until Christmas and beyond.
The Weather Bureau says the dry ground will also make flooding potentially more serious when it finally does happen. There remains the risk of severe storms and cyclones as well as we move into summer.
If you've been dreaming of buying a holiday home with waterfront views, this could be the deal for you. Marketed as a once-in-a-lifetime bargain, apartments in a resort are being sold for prices as low as $50,000. But they do come with a catch.
With the beach at your back door and the mainland just a boat ride away, these apartments could be the perfect buy for those looking for a place to escape.
There's nothing you can get. I don't even think around the world that's on the water, fully furnished, freehold apartment for such a low price.
This is Couran Cove, an island resort where the property prices are almost too good to be true.
From studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedroom lodges, 3 bedrooms, some great eco cabins out in the forest, and you've got the villas. So anything ranging from, say, 50,000 all the way through to 300,000.
But there is a major catch.
The resort's closed.
No power, no water, gas or sewerage, and no timeline for any of it to be switched back on. A body corporate dispute led to the resort being completely cut off in June. As a result, many residents and holidaymakers decided to sell up, leading to the record low prices. There's no questioning. If you buy here, you're taking a risk. But it's one this resident says is worth taking.
My wife and I came here a few years ago when it was sort of open. We sort of always loved the place, and obviously it's a great time to buy now.
Currently using generators and solar panels to keep the lights on, remaining optimistic about the future.
People here are amazing. Like, honestly, they care about the place, and I really think that it'll be what it was before.
I really do believe the owners are slowly taking back the island. The future looks very promising.
Meg Sides, 9 News.
A man's preparing to take drastic action in an effort to restore power, water, gas and sewerage to Couran Cove residents. Matthew Asia says he'll start a hunger strike from Monday to highlight the living conditions of island locals who are still struggling to access essential services.
These people have been suffering due to no fault of their own.
Matthew says he'll end the strike when the state government takes action or when his change.org petition receives 100,000 signatures.